Welcome back to Lost Legacies. I'm Matt,
I'm Sam.
and today we are talking about Season 1, Episode 20, Do No Harm. In which, while Jack relentlessly tries to save Boone's life, Kate's the only one who can help Claire deliver her baby. Man, oh man, Sam.
What an episode.
Yeah, you texted me last night saying, man, this is such a stressful show. This was crazy. This episode was like the definition of Murphy's Law. Like everything went down.
Yeah.
So let's just spill it out of the gate, man. Boone died.
He's dead.
And Claire had her baby.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them were happening at the same time. Essentially, the whole episode is Jack trying like endlessly to save Boone no matter what the cost. And he can't help Claire because she's out in the jungle. So Kate has to deliver the baby. And we had, what was that, like 45 minutes of just sheer terror. Like, oh my God.
I know. I was on the edge of my seat from like, I started the episode back up against the seat. And then by the time it was over, I was like,
half through it.
Yeah. I was like a centimeter of my butt was touching the chair. It's like, yeah.
Oh man.
Crazy.
Yeah. These last episodes, God, like you could tell they're winding down to the season finale because they have been really solid.
Mm-hmm.
Hurley's episode, Locke's episode, and now this time it was a Jack episode again.
Yeah, which was interesting, and I think I understand the reasoning for that. Because a lot of the central drama is focused on Jack. He's the only doctor on the island. He's the only person who seemingly has any medical training, professional medical training. So yeah, the fact that like this kid is brought to him his lung is collapsing, his leg is just like broken. And yeah, like Jack obviously is just okay, he's in doctor mode. He's like, I need this, shouting orders at everybody, So I can understand why it was a Jack episode, but it was really interesting because this episode, I think maybe for the first time truly felt like an ensemble episode.
Yeah, like everyone was in it except for Locke.
And even if they just get like one or two lines or they show up for a scene, everybody comes in, like the main cast, the main core of characters that we've been focusing on, they all show up, something like they all contribute in some way or another to the central drama that's happening. What an episode.
So this episode was written by Janet Tamaro. Not tomorrow, but it's like Tamaro.
Right.
Tamaro. And I don't know, it's crazy because last week's episode was written by Lindelof and Hughes, who are the showrunners. It was a great episode. And now to have this episode, which seems so pivotal just to the overall arc on the island. And like you said, in an ensemble, almost everyone on the island is affected by this episode. And then you have this other writer come in. Yeah. But I think it paid off. I think this is a fantastic episode. Janet, kudos to you, man.
Yeah, this might be like the best episode of the season so far.
Oh, easily, yeah.
Yeah, and that's a credit to the writers that are brought in and that are working on this. I'm sure like Lindelof and Hughes like are sort of like in the back, sort of like, oh yeah, like don't do that, or like can't fix that, or like tweak that scene a little bit. But yeah, like this is for one person to have sole credit for writing this episode. It's fantastic.
Yeah. And it's I'm lost for words again. I don't know.
You're lost.
I'm lost for words. Yeah. So Lindelof went on record as saying, I'm not going to give you the exact quote because it's spoilerish, but he did say that the decision to kill off Boone was essential to the plot in order to pit Jack against Locke, which is something we definitely see at the very end. That's like the cliffhanger.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, so much. This is like the opposite of the Ethan storyline, which just felt like, okay, Ethan came out of nowhere, so the reveal that he's the bad guy really didn't surprise us.
Yeah.
Because we're like, okay, yeah, of course it's this weird guy we've never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
And then the way they ended his story by Charlie killing him, and we both agree, like, it was supposed to be this huge, it could have been a series finale or at least a season finale, but luckily it wasn't, because it wasn't really a good episode.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't really pull off the execution properly. Whereas this one had tons of strands slowly being built throughout this season, episode 20. So we've had 19 episodes to prep for this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it paid off tremendously. We've been talking this whole time about how Locke is essentially pulling people over to his side or just trying to get in their good graces. We don't really know why. We kind of get an idea because he has some kind of connection to the island. And you mentioned a long time ago, meaning like several months ago when we first started this, that you were getting this vibe that like I guess people were like dividing,
Mm-hmm.
which helped the fact that they separated the camps. But essentially, this whole first season it hasn't been the main plot, but there's this feeling of division, like people are being pulled apart.
Mm-hmm.
And now we'll have to see what happens next. But this is the first time where we're like, oh crap. At least from the survivor's perspective, is Locke like not a good dude? Is he a bad guy?
Yeah.
So this is like counterintuitive to everything that Locke has been doing. It's gonna be, and it's exciting to see what happens next, because even Locke admitted, like his last episode, like everything, his whole plan went to crap. He doesn't know what the island wants him to do or why they're there or what.
Mm-hmm.
This is what happens.
Mm-hmm.
So what is interesting is that we didn't Boone, and unfortunately he only got a few lines. Even his final words were cut off,
Mm-hmm.
which sucked. But there was no, he would have been the only one to do it because Locke wasn't in this episode. But there was no mention of the transceiver.
Yeah.
Which is, if you think about it, that's pretty perfect, because he's the only one who heard it and now he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even Locke, like we don't know what Locke actually heard.
Yeah, that's true.
But
that's true. We don't know how like how loud that speaker was, so like maybe he heard, maybe all he heard was Boone just like communicating with somebody else, and then yeah, and then the plane crashed. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, it adds to the whole mysterious, like the Twilight Zone-ness of the show. We've said it before: the island giveth, the island taketh.
That I was thinking that perfect. It's perfect that Claire is having her baby right now, this exact moment when fucking Boone is dying.
Yeah.
It's the Game of Thrones thing. It's the thing that like hooked me in, from second episode of season 1, where like, spoilers, I guess, for Game of Thrones if you haven't seen it or read the books. But yeah, like Ned Stark, he kills one of the dire wolves, and then what happens? His catatonic son wakes up. You're like, and that's the thing. That's one of the quotes from that series, like, only death pays for life. And even Kat said something like that. And it's like, that's interesting how like the baby died. It's kind of like Boone had to die for the baby to be born. And I was like, yeah, you're right. This is like this. Is it fate? Is it fate that this is happening? I don't know.
Circle of Life, man. When did the first book come out?
Of Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
I don't know. Late 80s, 90s, early 90s.
Really?
Yeah, dude. Because it was, I want to say that
1996. Okay.
Oh, okay. That was the first one, a Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I remember it was a big deal when the 4th book came out. Because I think did that not come out when like talk of the show was being like,
I have no idea.
I
I
don't
don't
remember.
know.
Yeah.
But yeah, like so we've mentioned in the past how I think especially the last episode too, the island gave Charlie a second chance, and now all this heroin just showed up on the island, and he's gonna have to face that again.
Mm-hmm.
So there's all these different give and take moments. One I just realized because as we're recording this, our Hurley episode just went live.
Right.
And so when I was editing that, I realized, yeah, you brought up the fact that Saeed is slowly starting this relationship with Shannon, which we'll talk about that later in this episode. But then when they go off to Rousseau's place, he finds the picture of Nadia.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's like that temptation or the island pulling people back towards their past, the give and take. So I don't know. We'll see. The fact that Claire has been given her baby, was Boone the price to pay?
Yeah.
Or was there something else? Could you just say the fact of Boone dying has more to do with Locke's storyline? Like, what did Locke get out of this?
Mm-hmm.
It's just there's so many things going on at once. It's kind of hard to pinpoint, even if there is an exact like algorithm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It could just be symbolic. Who knows? Or thematic. But I think it's the show is really starting to tap into like, I guess you could call it bigger picture stuff or like really brainy philosophy type things now, which I
Yeah.
really love, which was always a huge part of this show. And we're starting to tap into that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's one of the things that we've slowly been like talking about throughout the season too, of like, at what point do you start planning to stay? At what point do you give up hope for rescue and just start functioning as a group on this island? Like at what point does it happen? Because we talked about that when well, like when Ethan was there, and I think you said something along the lines of like, this would be really different if the marshal hadn't have died.
Mm-hmm.
The whole show would be different if the marshal had lived, because then I think by default the leadership structure would have automatically fallen to him.
Right.
He's the authority. He's the guy with the badge and the gun. So then he's not like Kate, who is, oh yeah, like like Sawyer says, like, you're the new sheriff in town. Like, no, it really is the sheriff. He would have that. I think Kate would be in some sort of like prison. I don't think he would have put up with Sawyer at all. So yeah, it just sort of like, like this is along those same lines of like, like if we were on the island, would we have like advocated for like, maybe we should have like a prison or like a part of our little community that's like a stockade, like we didn't think to need one until Ethan pops out of the water and kills a guy, or first of all, kidnaps Charlie and Claire, like that whole thing.
Yeah.
Which I wanted to ask, because I was thinking about this last night. This technically isn't the first death on the show, because Steve died.
I think it was Steve.
I think it was Steve.
Or Scott. I don't remember.
I feel bad.
I think that's the point, though, that we don't know if it was Steve or Scott.
Yeah. But see, that's kind of my thing, because this is the first major death in the show. Barring anything that happened on,
as far as like a main character or one of the ensemble. Yeah, exactly. Like this is, like this is kind of like the first big death of the show. And I just kind of wanted to ask like how you felt about that. And do you think, because I kept coming back to the idea that like, this episode hit, this episode worked. I think, as the kids say, it slaps.
Yes, exactly. This slaps. I don't know, because I was just sort of thinking like, man, it kind of sucks that we've already like, one of the survivors is already dead. and also like Ethan died. You know, he was shot up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just for me initially, I kind of felt that way. Like, man, that sucks. Because this I felt like was super impactful, and I wanted to get your opinion.
You're
on
saying
that.
like what like this should have been like the first death, or
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of hard because they're establishing that this island is dangerous. The pilot dies in the first episode,
Mm-hmm.
you know, after everyone else. Remember, Boone almost died saving the lady at sea.
That's
So
true.
people have slowly been dying.
Oh man, yeah, I
It's not
forgot
that
about her.
much,
Yeah.
but it was her and then Scott or Steve. Uh, Other than that,
Steve.
that might be it.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ethan, but he wasn't one of the survivors.
Mm-hmm.
So it hasn't been too much, but like I see what you're saying. But I don't know. I really like that Ethan kills someone and they don't show it, but the way it's described is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that. It helped with the Ethan stuff. It helped him seem more like a threat. But I don't know. I also think another part of this, it wouldn't really have mattered
Mm.
because Boone, even though he's one of the ensemble, he's still essentially one of the side characters. And he's not one that's particularly liked.
Right.
If he had been written as a more sympathetic character, perhaps. I don't know. If one of one of the heavies had died, then like that would have been whoa. That would have been like our Ned Stark moment.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think I do wish because it is a bummer. Like I do like Boone as a character. I do wish the death would have hit a little harder. Like, I don't know. I just wish, like, what if like Shannon had died instead? Because Shannon was a character that you don't really like, but we've talked about this throughout this first season. We've seen her grow,
Mm-hmm.
and we're seeing her grow just as an individual, but also with her relationships to Saeed. We're really getting to see like an adult side to her.
Mm-hmm.
She's always been like the what was that show? Simple Life with Paris Hilton and Nicole
Uh-huh.
Richie. You know, she's always been like that kind of prissy rich girl. And then slowly we start to see, and just her maturity and her attitude, she still seems like a teenager, even though she's not.
Yeah.
And then as the show's gone on, we're like, okay, we start to see the adult side of her. We start to see her. It's not just like, oh, she's in a relationship with Saeed now. So now this is what it took to make her grow. It's like, no, that's one of the side effects. I don't know what you want to call it. Her relationship with Saeed is just something that came out of her growth. It's
Right.
not the other way around.
Right.
So if she had died like this, which was a horrible death, that would have been devastating.
Mm-hmm.
Boone, on the other hand, we do get to see him grow throughout this first season, but it's not much. And like for him, growth is just going off and being on his own, being solo.
Mm-hmm.
It's just him trying to distance himself from his not sister. So I think it works. I'm glad he was the one because so far everyone else this first season, like I've loved their backstory
Mm-hmm.
more than his.
Mm-hmm.
Even Shannon, like they've just hinted it enough that like I want to know what her backstory is.
Right.
Which I mean, keep in mind, this is Lost. It is like this so far. This maybe sci-fi, something fantasy, weird Twilight Zone thing. This is a show about flashbacks, and Boone is her stepbrother.
Mm-hmm.
So it may not be the last time we see Boone, but if we do, it'll probably be a flashback in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So that might help it hurt a bit more. You know what I mean? Imagine like seeing that, like, oh, like if they were to show us a flashback of Boone and Shannon actually getting along, oh yeah, his death would sting a little more.
Yeah.
Because I thought about it, like, what if this had been a Boone episode? Like, I don't know what it would have been about, especially because he's just dying the whole
Mm-hmm.
episode. I don't
Well,
know if it would have been more tragic or not.
yeah. And that's kind of the thing too. That's been one of the interesting things about how about looking at how like these stories are constructed. I want to know. I kind of want to know what comes first. Like, is it the situation or is it the flashback? And I'm
Mm.
sure in some cases it might like alternate back and forth because, like honestly, what does Locke's last episode have anything to do with the situation that they're in now? Kind of nothing.
That's a good point. Yeah.
What yeah, like I mean, and you can point to the episodes as like, oh well, actually, like Hurley's is a key piece of the island. Like Sawyer's is like him like tracking like to like where he ends up in Sydney. It's like, yeah,
Those made sense. Certain ones make sense. Yeah.
certain ones make sense, but even like
Mm-hmm.
Kate's episode, the last one she had where she's robbing the bank, like that's kind of nothing. It isn't until
Yeah.
the end where she opens the safety deposit box and then she opens up the thing uh, from the suitcase or whatever, and she pulls out the airplane.
It's almost like in the case of Kate, it's almost like a sleight of hand
Exactly.
because at first we don't know she's in on it.
Yeah.
And then okay, she's a bank robber. And then it's like, oh, she's not a bank robber. And all of it, like it felt like it wasn't really that episode wasn't really a Kate episode.
Mm-hmm.
It was about Kate though. Because
Yeah.
the major thing about that episode was how Jack and Sawyer are dealing with Kate.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like the whole flashback there. It was good side to see. It was a good Kate flashback, a story to tell, but it felt like it was all sleight of hand. He's like, you think this is Kate's story, but it's all different. And same
Yeah.
thing with the last episode. It was a great episode. I love Locke's backstory, meeting his father. It turned
Mm-hmm.
out to just be a total butthead. But it didn't have anything to do with the episode, but it was a really good backstory. It was
Mm-hmm.
really good. So this, or what are you gonna say?
Well, I was going to say, like, to bring it back to this one, like that's kind of what I mean about how Jack's flashback has nothing to do with any of this except for the fact that he needs to learn something. He can't do something. He can't figure out why he can't get there, and he needs to learn. That's like he just needs to let go.
So yeah, so let's jump into this because we got to talk about his flashbacks because this is one of those things like I love Jack in this episode. I don't love the backstory, but I think it was important. And this is like a situation like when else, what other opportunity are we going to have as storytellers to to reveal to the audience this side of Jack?
Mm-hmm.
It has to be something this intense. It couldn't just be Boone dying. It
Mm-hmm.
couldn't just be Claire having the baby. It's like everything had to happen at once. Jack looks half dead almost the whole episode because he's been trying to transfuse his blood, give it to Boone.
Yeah.
So it's like Jack is at his limit, and this is when we get to see this side of him.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially the flashbacks in this is again sleight of hand. His first flashback, we don't realize it, but he's getting married. Even the way the dialogue goes and everything, you think it's his friend.
Mm-hmm.
But it turns out like, no, the friend is just nervous because he's the best man having to give the speech. Oh, then it's revealed Jack's the one getting married.
Yeah.
Which, if you noticed, he was wearing a muscle shirt. He had no tattoos. So who knows how
Did he
far
not
back
have tattoos?
he did not. That's the first thing I noticed. I was like, oh wow.
Oh man.
Also, because
I was
I
just more caught
know,
up with his haircut.
yeah, his haircut, but I also know just like Jack's tattoos are Matthew Fox's tattoos in real life.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's why I caught it. I was like, oh, he has clean arms. That's
Weird.
interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. So who knows? I don't know how far back this is, but it turns out Jack gets married, and we have 20 episodes in. We've never heard anything about him having a wife before.
Mm-hmm.
Not even in his flashback. So we'll see. Also, his new bride to be is played by Julie Bowen, who is more famously now she played the mom in Modern Family.
Oh, okay.
See, Jack, You could have had a modern family, but you just don't know how to quit
Oh man.
me. So just to sum up real quick, because I don't want to spend too long on it, but essentially Jack's flashbacks is just like the night before his wedding, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
They're at like the rehearsal dinner. His wife gives that like just beautiful talk of how Jack saves her. Like she was in an accident and he basically put her back together so she could dance at her wedding.
Mm-hmm.
And basically his flashback is just Jack trying to come up with his wedding vows, which I really like. It felt like for Jack, the stakes are high, but for us as an audience, it really felt like low stakes, especially knowing on the island what he's going through. It was nice. It was a nice buffer to the rest of the episode.
Yeah.
It made everything else a little more easy. They're at a hotel somewhere in Hawaii. I'm like, okay, I'm enjoying the scenery. I'm enjoying the story. It's quaint,
Mm-hmm.
but it says a lot about him when his dad shows up, which is probably Christian Shepherd like at his nicest we've seen so far. Because it's just him and his son like sitting with their legs in the pool, just talking. And he's good, man. He's doing his thing. He's being a dad, but then Jack starts questioning everything he's doing, and Christian Shepherd has to be Christian Shepherd,
Mm-hmm.
and he doesn't really help Jack any with his nerves about getting married or anything like that. Because he's afraid, like, what if I can't be the husband I want to be or the father I want to be, yada yada, which I don't think is everyone goes through that. I don't know, Sam, did you go through that?
Yeah.
Yeah, just the nerves.
Yeah. I'll say this, like I knew before proposing to Kat that I was sure. I was like, yeah, no, this is what I want to do. Because like you hear horror stories about people who like, oh yeah, I proposed because that's what you're supposed to do, or yeah, seemed like a good idea, or something like that. And I just that was a big thing. At least when Kat and I got together, like we kind of we laid it out flat. They're like, look, I'm looking to settle down. Like I'm tired of dating, I'm tired of all of that. So our goals were pretty aligned
from like the start.
Yeah, from the start. Yeah. So like that's what our relationship was built on. Like I'm looking for somebody to like share my life with, start a family with, things like that. And so when I did decide, I was like, yeah, this is 100% what I want to do. But the lead up to the wedding, there were moments where it was kind of like, am I gonna be a good husband? Am I the person that this other person deserves? And yeah, it's terrifying. There's some sleepless nights where I'm just lying there and I'm just like, man, like what if it comes out wrong? What if I mess up? And so, yeah, 100%, like I could feel it. I didn't so much feel like that the night before my wedding. One, because I was sick as a dog. I don't know if you remember. Right. I was like, I had like the allergy attack from hell.
We all were.
Like, yeah. You were, Dad was, I was. Yeah, I was awful. I felt so sick. And then, yeah, my groomsmen were there, my roommate and my best friend, they were there, and they were like, okay, Sam, like go to bed, like you're gonna be fine. And when I woke up the next morning, I still felt bad. And then it wasn't until like an hour before supposed to get to the church, I start cleaning up. I'm getting ready. As soon as I got on the church ground, my sinuses cleared up. And from then until like I went to sleep that night, I was fine. I could breathe. So that was just, my moment where I was like, okay, yeah, this was meant to be. I did not want to have, stuffy runny nose for my wedding, and I didn't. So yeah.
So it worked out. Yeah.
It all worked out, So what I'm saying is, Jack, it's all going to work out. You just got to believe that it's going to work out. Yeah, dude, I was so scared that Jack was going to like leave the altar. You know, I thought he wasn't going to commit, because that's kind of the message that his dad is giving him.
And that's what I wanted to mention too, because like his dad
gave some shitty advice.
He did, but at the same time, he really called Jack out. And it was the truth. He basically said, he said, Jack, he's like, your problem, or what's it? You've always had problem with commitment, which kind of hit me right in the kidney when he said that. I was like, oh.
All right, Mr. Shepard. Look, we all have problems with commitment. All right.
All right. But it's like almost me and Jack Shepard are the exact opposite, because he tells Jack, he's like, you've always had problems with commitment. You don't know when to quit. Is that the line? No. Here's the line. You don't know how to let go.
Mm-hmm.
So Jack's the person, his problems with commitment is that he just commits and he doesn't stop.
Mm-hmm.
Which that is essentially the whole theme of this episode. Like,
yeah,
he's going to save Boone no matter what. He even tells him as he's dying, I'm going to save you, which is the same thing he told his wife.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like episode 3 we've had that's a Jack episode. And it's like every time it's a Jack episode, I'm like, I like Jack. I like this character, but there's so many other characters that we've only seen once.
Yeah.
You know, their backstories once. I'm like, let's give someone else a shot. But every time we see Jax, it shows they do it well. His flashbacks show a new side of him that makes sense. It's not like Charlie, where it's like, all right, we already knew this about Charlie. You know, he gets the short straw when it comes to the flashbacks.
Mm-hmm.
But Jack, it's like, yeah, we always see new stuff. So we always kind of had this idea of Jack. And then this flashbacks just like cemented it. You're like, yeah, he doesn't know how to quit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I thought he was gonna leave her at the altar too, man. But no, he doesn't, and he's basically coming up with his vows on the spot, and it's such a good scene. All right, Mandy Fox and Julie Bowen, man, you see her face as he's talking at the wedding, and she probably thinks he's gonna leave too, because you see it on her face, and then you see her face. She just did a fantastic job.
Mm-hmm.
I wish she had been more in the episode more.
Yeah.
So Jack's on his way to start a modern family, which we haven't heard of. So what happens next?
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to find out.
Yeah, I guess we will.
Yeah. So that's essentially it for his backstory, or the flashbacks for this episode. So the whole island, which something I really like, he's butting heads with Sun. They're butting medicinal heads over how to save Boone.
Mm-hmm.
He's a doctor. He doesn't really know, understand, or approve of a lot of her, what do you call it? Her, what does Sun do? It's more of like her way. She's not a doctor. Her way of healing people is more, what's that word? Earthly, grounded.
Yeah. I'll go with that. There's a word for it, but I don't
unprocessed. I can't think of this
probably
word.
I mean, it's just not medically, licensed.
Herbal remedies.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, Jack says that. Yeah.
But Sun's super smart, man, and like the way she finds out that, I guess, I don't know what that was, but she was able to pull the spikes off of this little puffy creature.
I think it's just like a sea urchin.
Yeah. Sea urchin. There you go. And just she's able to really show her intelligence in this medicinal field, and while they're trying to help Boone, but she's also the first one to kind of give up on Boone. And she tells Jack too, she's like, Jack, you're not helping him anymore.
Yeah.
He's not going to make it. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
As much as in that situation, as much as you hate to admit it, like she was right. Like you can't save Boone.
Yeah.
And Jack's essentially going to try to amputate Boone's leg in, I don't know what the hell that was, some part of the fuselage, some heavy ass door. They're going to try to cut his leg off, and Boone just tells him, he's like, let me go.
Mm-hmm.
Man. He lets Jack off the hook for his promise.
That would have been, like, well, I don't know if I would have said it in that situation, but like as a writer, I would have been like, I would have given the Sawyer's insurance line to Boone at that moment and be like, no, Jack, it's okay. My insurance just ran out.
That's his last line.
That's his last line. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm just being no, obviously, like
this is a serious situation.
This is
we just lost situation.
The man.
Okay.
Yeah. I recognize that. No, I mean, and it's a testament to Boone himself to just be able to tell Jack, like, he's like, I'm messed up on the inside.
Yeah.
It's like, no matter what Jack does, it's not going to help.
Mm-hmm.
He did what he could. And now this guy, this dying man is literally telling Jack, like, you tried.
Yeah.
And you can't feel guilty about that.
Yeah.
And
I think that was a very mature way for Boone to go out to, especially seeing he's that character. He's the young, full of youth, full of rebellion, doesn't want to listen to anyone, thinks he can do everything, but he's constantly screwing up and everyone else is having to pay for it.
Yeah.
So to have him go out with this kind of nobility, type thing, it's just like, it's my time. My time. I thought that was a good, and it was a bittersweet extra, if you're going to write out of character, you just don't want someone to be, you want him to get hit by a bus. What the? And then we never see him again. You want it to be impactful, especially as an actor too. So that was he had a good death scene. It sucks that he still doesn't really get a last lines. Like he dies like halfway through his line. But that just kind of makes it more tragic. So I'm glad that he had that moment with Jack and he was, and he was able to pull his own plug essentially, unfortunately that's like the most growth we have seen out of Boone. At the end, he died. As a man, I don't know what you want to call it.
He died.
He was just simple. Mature enough to face it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
because what I don't want to say what other character, because you could speculate all day about that, but like you're right. It's just it's a brave thing to just sort of admit and own up to. It's like, nope.
Yep.
I'm ready. Like it's happening. It's fine. Which is kind of what to sort of veer off into the B plot of the episode. That's kind of what Claire's having trouble with.
Right.
Claire is just devoutly refusing to have her baby. Even though it's happening, she's going through the contractions, like she is just like, no, I am not having this baby. I'm not doing it. And I thought it was going to be more of a thing of like, oh, I can't have the baby here, because that wasn't the plan.
And that's kind of what we think of for the majority of the episode.
Yeah.
She just keeps saying, she's like, no, I can't do this. I can't do this here. And especially because Jack's not there. And then so to jump ahead a bit, when she's actually going to have the baby and Kate's like helping her, I think it's just Kate and Claire at this point. And Claire's holding her breath. Oh my God, dude. And Kate is just like pleading with her, no, we have to do this. Oh man, this is heartbreaking. But Charlie explains to Kate that Jack's not going to make it to them, so she has to deliver the baby. Kate's not having it. She's like, no, I can't do this, blah, blah, blah. In that time period, Jin, even though he doesn't understand English, and he knows that Claire doesn't understand Korean, he's there trying to comfort her. I was like, yes, Jin's a good guy, man. He's a good guy. And Jin is the one that Claire opens up to. Everyone hears because everyone's close by, so Kate hears it all. But Claire's telling Jin essentially, that she how scared she is. Oh, and she mentioned, she's like, I don't have my memory. I don't know what they did to me. I don't know if they did something to it. to my baby. Oh man, it was a great scene to see Claire just be honest. You know, when Claire disappeared after she came back, she kind of came back a little more badass.
Yeah.
I think it's just because like before granted, she's this pregnant young mom stranded on an island. So she's terrified. But when she came back, it's like she's missing memory. So I don't know, maybe part of that fear is what left because she's just like more headstrong about it. But now that she's actually in the situation, she's freaking out. But yeah, I like that she opened up to Jen like that. And then what she ends up telling Kate that she's going to give birth. You know, she admits to Kate that she didn't want the baby. And babies know that. I'm like, oh, dude, my heart broke into like a million pieces. And then Kate, you know, she's badass, man. She's awesome. She understands. She's like, do you want the baby now? She's like, yeah, because he knows that. Or
I think she says it knows that.
It knows that now. Yeah. Like, oh man. Yeah, it's such a good scene. I'm like, it wasn't just okay, Boone dying, we have a baby born. Just the overall, it was both stressful, but there's just so much joy in the Claire story arc, you know, for this episode. Even if it is terrifying, you're like, okay, come on. Life finds a way.
Yeah, that's half of the end note for the episode. You know, like she has the baby. It's a healthy little baby boy, and she walks out onto the beach with Charlie and Jen and Kate, and everybody's there, you know, to greet her. You know, and it's such a beautiful moment. There's no sound, there's no dialogue. It's just the music and
that piano.
You know, that soft little dramatic piano that Giacchino likes to use. And you're just like, okay, yeah, like this is good. You know, this is a good moment. This is a bright, shining moment in these people's just like bleak lives at right now. I'm gonna put a little bit of a sour note on it because I'm still with Claire from episodes ago where she's telling Charlie like nobody talks to me because everybody just looks like I'm a problem, you know, like they know they're going to have to deal with this at some point. And, you know, I'm just like, shame on all of you for not helping, for not talking to Claire, for having her only friend be the British drug addict. All right.
Yeah.
Shame on all of you.
I got a question for you.
Shoot.
Because I realized something in this episode. Because I love Daniel Day Kim's performance as Jin. Jin doesn't understand English. Do you think that Jin thinks Charlie's the father?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think so.
Because I never thought about that. But obviously there's the scene like Kate is helping deliver Claire's baby and Jin and Charlie are off sitting to the side and he's just giving him like the look, you know, just like he can't speak English, but he's giving him the look. Says, no, it'll be okay. It'll be okay. And Jen
puts his hand up and he just like squints and like smiles.
Everyone's freaking out, and Jen's just there smiling like he knows everything's gonna be okay. And then afterwards, everyone like they're celebrating, and he goes and like to shake Charlie's hand, and Charlie hugs him. I'm like, oh shit. Jen thinks Charlie's the dad.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, if I wasn't, you know, like part of the main ensemble cast, I would too.
Yeah.
I'm just chilling on the island, you know, like on the beach, hunting some fish, you know, stroking the fire. Yeah. And I, you know, see those two, I'd be like, it's a cute couple right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, and I love that too, because did Jin have to be there in the episode? No. But he was. And again, it was an ensemble. They wanted him in that moment. Like, okay, we already gave Sawyer a little something to do. We gave Michael a little something to do. Let's give Jin something to do. And he's always the one, like, he's a perceptive dude. Several times he's heard stuff out there. Like, he heard Ethan coming for Charlie. He's like, you know, so That was cool. I'm glad they brought Jin into the episode a bit.
Yeah, I was too. I was really glad. As soon as Kate started screaming for help and it cut to Jin, I was like, of course, the one dude who doesn't speak English is going to be the one to have to tell everybody, hey, the blonde girl, the pregnant one, she's having her baby.
Uh-huh.
But I want to talk briefly about that because he runs into the caves and starts saying, Jack, doctor. And Hurley's like, oh, yeah, Jack, over there.
Yeah.
He runs in, and the first person he sees is Sun.
Yeah.
And they're communicating that whole time. Like, they probably haven't talked in weeks, since,
or a few days. Or
a few. That boat is not going to be, that's not a few days work.
Right. I was going to say they built that. Let's talk about Sun and Jin first, but we'll go back to that. Cause like that, they built that boat fast.
Yeah. Yeah. No, like it's, they haven't talked. They haven't talked in a while. Let's just say that they haven't talked in a while.
Yeah.
And, he sees, this woman just standing there. He's like, oh man, what's happening? But he knows that nobody else is going to understand. And she knows that no one else is going to understand.
Like, you got to talk to me, dude.
Yeah. You have to talk. And he does. He kind of puts his head down as he's speaking, but then he's making eye contact and then okay, here's what happened. And she's like, okay, I'm gonna tell Jack. Okay, yeah, tell Jack. It's it's that whole thing. So I think that, man, is as heartbreaking as their sort of split was a couple of episodes ago. This is one of my favorite moments of them in the series so far. They have to communicate, and try as he might, that he doesn't want to. I think she's also just okay, at least in these troubling times, a crisis, at least she knows now that he's not gonna not say anything. He's not gonna ignore her.
And it's so subtle too, but that's exactly right. It can't get any worse. Jin needs to get help. He needs to help Claire. Sun is dealing with this young dying man. It's the situations are so extreme, it kind of gives it a different appreciation for each other. It's just like any situation like that. Anytime you lose someone or have a big life-changing moment like that, you reevaluate everything. So kind of all of that was happening in their one little scene. And I mean, that's one of my favorite parts of acting. The best part of acting and the strongest parts of acting is what's not being said. And that was Jin and Sun just through that whole scene. They're trying to communicate. They're trying to save these two people. But it's everything that's not being said between the two. And that hasn't been said over the last couple episodes, the last couple days for them, the last couple of years for them as a marriage. It's all coming out in this scene, because everything else, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We have to be here right now. So it was a good moment. I really liked it. That's smart on the writers to force them together again.
Yeah.
But yeah, so before all of this, Michael tells Claire, oh, by the way, speaking of which, this episode ends with Boone's death and the little baby's birth on day 42.
Okay.
It's still pretty, they've just been there month and a half-ish.
Yeah, thereabouts.
Yeah, Michael says the raft should be ready to go in about a week. Holy moly, that was fast. We'll see what happens. The raft is a lot bigger now than the original one. And originally, what did they say? Only 3 people or 4?
4 people, but Michael's including himself and Walt.
And Sawyer's already bought himself a seat.
Yeah, Sawyer's bought himself a seat, so technically just one more person. I don't know if there's more. I don't know if there's no more room now with the new one or not. Yeah. Because it kind of even though it looks bigger and it looks more well made, I don't think
still pretty small.
Well, yeah, I know it's pretty small, but that's what I'm saying. I think Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were accusing me or like attacking me. You'd be like, it
How
still looks
dare
pretty
you, Sam?
small.
Did you see the size of that raft?
How dare you? I saw it and it looks slightly bigger, but the problem still stands that I think there's only room for 4 people and three of the seats are called. All right. Gosh.
Well, what I'm saying, it looks like there's only room for Mike, Walt, Sawyer, and one more. That's it. I'm right, and so are you, damn it.
Good. I'm glad we can agree.
All right. That's why we have this stupid podcast.
So hang on, wait a second. Are they not counting Vincent? Are they not going to take Vincent?
Dude, I don't know.
Like it kind of, I mean, there's no proof. There's no evidence that that's not there. But that's just my question. Now I'm like, wait a second. If there's only room for 4 people, 3 of the seats are called.
Does Vincent get the 4th seat?
Yeah, it's Vincent the automatic 4th? Because I don't know. And I'm sure we'll get into this at some point, you know, whenever the boat is ready. But like, one, I don't think any of them know just how. I'm sure they're just not thinking about it, but I don't think any of them are prepared for how hard that's going to be. You know, like how difficult to like break through the tide.
Yeah.
But then also like after that, what's going to happen to you? Where are you going to go? Like all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And so I'm guessing the question now is going to be like, okay, is everybody going to be willing to pull their weight?
Yeah.
Because so far, Sawyer doesn't look like the type to pull his weight. He's just there chilling, making sure they're ready. They're making the boat and that it's done on time. But yeah, like whoever else is going to be on the boat, like it's going to be at least 4-person operation to work that thing.
Dude, like it really seems like a suicide mission.
It really does.
Think about it. I'm like,
yeah.
It's like, do you risk it? Like, would you risk dying at sea for a chance of being rescued? A slim chance.
Hell no.
I'd rather die on the island. Like, I wouldn't go.
My two biggest fears of going out, like being taken out by something, suffocation and
no
drowning.
Breathing.
Yeah, no breathing. So, you know, Papa Roach style, but opposite, you know.
Yeah.
Those first lyrics, I'm like, oh no, those are my biggest fears. Yeah, man. No, I can't. I wouldn't be able to deal with that, you know. And you're not, you know how to swim. You just don't like swimming.
Sure.
We're scouts, Matt. You know how to swim.
Yeah,
you know
but
the
it's been a very long time.
Well, I mean, I
always wear really heavy boots. So here's the thing, like
in the water.
If I have to save someone, we're both gonna die. If I have to save myself, maybe I'm pretty sure I could float my way out.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, like I don't. If I get pulled out by a riptide, I'm pretty sure I'm dead. But most people are, even if you are a good swimmer.
Yeah, there you go.
Get myself some credit there. But yeah, no, like I don't. Honestly, dude, just me and water have an understanding. I drink it and I bathe in it, and that's about it.
Okay.
I'll dip my toes in and I'll stay away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think, no, especially knowing me, knowing that there's an island that clearly isn't normal, I'd stay.
Yeah, I mean,
I want to see how the story ends.
Yeah, me and you were just curious by nature. So it'd be like, look, I understand that there's like crazy stuff going on, but also this is the most exciting my life has ever been.
Yeah,
so
I wouldn't go venturing off into the island like Saeed or Hurley.
Dude, that's what I'm saying.
I would stay long enough just to see what happens. I'm like, all right, okay.
Yeah. I mean, again, you know, like this is barely a month and a half in, to this dilemma. So yeah, I'm with you. I would stay at least until like the boat ventures out and I'd be like, okay, they're off the island. Well, I've got my pack of provisions that I'm doing, and my brother and I are gonna go map the island.
See, but here's the thing. But even that, like, sure, yeah, I'd be scared to go out there because there's like whispers and the monsters and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But the main reason I wouldn't venture out into the island is because of Ethan. I know there's other people out there. And
Oh,
that's
that's
where it's
true.
just like, oh, I kind of feel more
Dang it.
comfortable dealing with like supernatural than I would be people. Like, oh,
Yeah.
crap.
Yeah. 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 I guess you're right. Because we've talked about that too. It's like that when the boat when the boat got burned. Uh, it was a moment where everybody's pointing fingers at each other, and Locke is the one who's like, "We're not alone on this island. We have to stop fighting." Obviously, Locke, that was a big bluff on Locke's part, but he's not wrong.
Right.
And yeah, like I just have so much more fear now because there is a baby, a born baby. Like Claire's pregnancy is over. Now she's a mom. The baby's alive and healthy. I'm sure the others are going to know that. Whoever else is out there, like
Yeah.
they're going to know. And yeah, like I'm now even more worried, and this is all the more reason why we should fortify whatever place we have so
Yeah.
that no weirdos can come up from the water or anything like that.
I was just gonna say, like, it's a bummer that Michael's the one leaving because he's the architect.
Yeah.
And if I was there, that's what I would be trying to do. I'm like, how do we fortify this place? It would have to be the caves, maybe something on the beach, but like if you're facing that situation, I'm gonna spend the rest of my life here. How do I want to live? I'm gonna build some tree houses, man. You know,
Yeah.
the who are they called? Not the Lost Boys. They're vampires. Who are the
What? No, like the Lost Boys from Peter Pan.
No, I was
Are
thinking
you thinking of Robin Hood?
yeah, Robin Hood. What's his guys?
The Merry Men.
Really? That's what they're called?
Robin Hood is his merry men. Yeah, I mean the Sherwood thieves. I don't know.
Oh, I thought that's another. Okay, well, sure. Like a Lost Boy, I guess. Yeah. I want to build some tree houses and stuff. Fortify
Yeah,
that place. I tried to team
yeah.
up with Michael and Locke before Michael took off and before Locke went crazy.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that would have been part of the situation.
yeah,
Of okay, we need latrines. We need a
yeah,
place like
yeah.
where we're gonna store our food. All that stuff. Like
Some kind of shower type thing.
yeah, Eagle Scout training, dude. It would have kicked in. I would be like, okay, look, this is the
Yeah,
things that we absolutely need right now. Yeah, I probably like before the first month was over, I'd be like, you know what? We're gonna be here a while longer. And I, for one, don't like sleeping on dirt or,
Mhm.
Sand or whatever. So let's have some spaces made to where, it's like, hey, there's some privacy between
Yeah,
people,
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I
and
would
get
have
off the
teamed up with
ground.
Michael.
I mean, I don't know. There might be scorpions or something.
Yeah.
Sand snakes.
I would just tell Michael, like, look, I'm not going to stop you from building the boat. Can you at least walk me through the steps of building some sort of hut out of bamboo?
Well, I'm pretty sure because we saw him like mapping stuff out earlier, like how he was trying to figure out how to separate like the waterfall water so they can have some to drink and some to bathe in.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm just assuming they did that. It's just not on screen.
Yeah.
Same thing. Like they probably have some form of latrine out there.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. We really went off the rails of this episode. We talked about everything, but this episode had everything. So it
Yeah.
kind of makes sense.
It's a big episode. It's a good episode.
This is going to be a long one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So pretty much the only thing we haven't talked about was Shannon, who is on like Saeed takes her on like a first date. It's so nice. They go off on the beach. There's like tiki torches or something. A little, I don't know. I couldn't even tell.
And like a little beach blanket with an assortment of fruits.
Like a charcuterie board. Well, but that's meat.
There's fruit on a charcuterie board too.
Okay, a meatless charcuterie board.
Yeah.
I can't even say the word.
Which I'm like, man, that's quite a spread for just two people.
Hey,
I
man,
hope y'all brought all of that back that you didn't eat, or you ate it all.
Yeah,
because if it's just there, I'm going to be upset.
They give the rest to Vincent. Speaking of which, dude, I don't know. Do you want Vincent to go? Because if they run out of food, who's going to be the first one they eat?
I mean, look, Vincent, I think, has a natural instinct of survival and
True.
self-preservation because he comes and goes as he pleases. All right.
Very
If they
true.
leave Vincent, I'm sure Vincent's like, all right, cool. I don't trust the other guys out. You know?
I'm gonna go solve this island.
Yeah. I'll
Yeah.
go with Vincent. I would be like, dude, you know how to survive. Let's go.
Yeah.
I protect you. You protect me. I scratch your back and I don't know.
What if he's just basically like John Locke, but a dog? He's dog Locke.
Dog lock.
You know, he'll
Damn.
only keep you around as long as he needs you, and then he'll leave you to die.
I feel like, Vincent, can you at least tell me when my usefulness has run out so that I can leave?
And then he'll eat you after you die.
Yeah. Yeah, probably.
We'll see.
Damn.
Yeah. So Shannon goes on her first day with Saeed after her saying, and everything, how, it's her new life. She wants to start over. She wants to take it slow. She wants to do it right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thumbs up to you. It's all well and good until the next morning they come back to camp and Jack has to tell her via montage that her brother's dead. Her not brother's dead.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something she even talks about with Saeed. She says, look, we don't know if we're getting rescued. We're going to be here a very long time. And so will Boone. So we need to make that work.
Mm-hmm.
Not anymore, sister.
Not anymore.
He's dead.
But sort of reading the tea leaves here, it's kind of like, okay, she was ready to start this new life with Saeed in the shadow, if you will, of her brother.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's here on the island. That's something we have to reckon with. We'll live with it. It's fine. And Saeed is also like, okay.
Yeah,
absolutely. I want this. You want this. We'll make it work.
Mm-hmm.
Now that that's not there, now that Boone's gone, I do wonder if there's going to be a part of Shannon that's like, or one, I think she is just going to be pissed that like she wasn't there. Her brother is gone. And it might just make her more skittish of this whole thing. Like, what if their relationship is cursed or something like that? What if this is somehow her fault? And then, of course, Saeed now has Nadia's picture again. And so it's like, yeah, I can almost see that like coming into play if Shannon's already feeling this insecure about this new situation, having Saeed still have the photo of his ex, like this woman that he loved. Like, yeah, I'm sure that's gonna.
Yeah.
Basically, that's just a prediction. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the stuff's gonna hit the fan.
And that's all I have to say about that, Sam. So if you're listening, we just went on a killer tangent, and that's going to be a bonus episode.
I feel like
soon.
That was like a 20 minute to half hour tangent.
Yeah, I know. But it was really good. We really touched a lot of stuff. So we're going to do a bonus episode with that. Not really remembering where we left off. Let's just jump into predictions. Okay. What's your prediction, Sam? You already mentioned Shannon and Saeed are probably going to, that relationship's going to be tested.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's going to be within like these next couple episodes, because I feel like there's going to be like some pretty heavy stuff that we've got into like these last 4 episodes.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so but who knows? Like so yeah, there's that. Yeah, that's kind of all I got, because I really Lost has been really surprising me these last well, one, this whole season, that we've been watching, but also just within the terms of the story, like within the last couple of episodes, it's been really surprising for me. And I kind of don't know what to predict, even if it is something as outlandish as like John Locke is Professor X. Like, maybe he's more Magneto now. I don't know. There's some stuff going on there, but yeah, I'm gonna say there's no new predictions right now.
All right, so let's get into our MVPs this week.
I think my MVP this week is gonna surprise you.
Okay.
My MVP for this week is Sun.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That surprised me. I like it though.
There's an understatedness to her whole performance this episode. It really surprised me because like it sort of felt like, oh, Kate is going to be the one who helps Jack like through the whole thing, through the whole process.
Mm-hmm.
But Kate is sort of like just frozen when she sees Boone and doesn't know what to do. Jack has to like tell her multiple times, like, I need you to go to the beach. I need you to go get Sawyer's alcohol. And then of course, like he asks her to deliver the baby, because she's the only one who can, all that. Like, so there's at least that much, but it was Sun who just kind of jumped in,
Mm-hmm.
he only had to like tell her like one time, like where something was in the drawer. And she's like, second drawer. Yeah. And she goes to look for it and finds it. And then she's there for the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
She may have been the first one to sort of like tell Jack that like this is kind of hopeless and I think you should just throw in the towel. But that's just kind of her being practical,
Right.
And that's the thing this whole episode is that like Jack is still thinking in terms of the modern world, the civilized world. Like he's still thinking like that. Okay, I don't have this. I don't have this. I don't have this. I need something that's going to do that. So when she brings these quote unquote herbal remedies to the table, Jack is just going to scoff at it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, no, this tree, like this little piece of wood that I'm bringing isn't an incense thing or anything like that. It's a grit so that he can bite down on it when you set his leg.
Mm-hmm.
And Jack's like, oh, yeah. Like I'm sure that like in the medical world, he just like give him a shot or something and it's like knock him out. Okay, cool. And now we're going to do this, like whatever, pain meds, whatever. She goes off. He asks her to go look for Shannon and she's like, that's kind of not important right now. You need a needle. You've been complaining about a needle. Here's a fucking sea urchin that has a point that's almost like,
It's exactly what he needed.
Yeah, it's exactly what he needed. Like, so she is practical. She did everything right. And she's the one who has to she's the translator, when Jin comes in. Because how else is that conversation going to go? If Jin comes in and it's just Jack and Charlie, like, it's just going to be panic and stress. And she's the one who brings an ease and kind of is just like an anchor for everything. Because obviously, like this is Jack's episode. So he's going to be more involved, or he's going to be like, oh, like it's all on me. The pressure's on. And she's going to be like, yeah, but keep cool. You can figure this out, So yeah, definitely. I thought she did a hell of a performance in an episode where like everybody is kind of giving their all, and Jack is obviously, Matthew Fox is obviously the one who's like, yeah, like this is his episode. She really just like brought it for me.
Yeah. Well, my MVP is Emily DeRaven, Claire.
Nice.
She just gave just so heartbreakingly beautiful performance as Claire. You saw the fear, and again, another. You shouldn't take acting advice from me, but I don't know.
You're my brother. I trust you.
I don't know if I said this in the episode or in the rant episode, but another acting advice tip: just because you're crying doesn't mean like it's warranted. Like the best performances was like this one, where you can actively see Claire trying not to cry. And oh, man, just her whole talk with Jin, her talk with Kate, which is feelings she's had and hidden for this whole season, and several weeks on this island, and it's all coming out now. It's beautiful. I also want to shout out Evangeline Lilly, who did a very, very good job in that scene as Kate. Like she really stepped to the plate, but it was really Emily DeRaven who sold it. So it's like, oh man. Yeah. And I'm glad you gave it to Youngjin Kid, because I was thinking too, like, I loved it. I loved Jack in this episode. I loved his flashbacks. I love Matthew Fox's performance at the wedding when he's
Mhm.
just like crying, like doing his vows. But still, this is just Jack. And we're just seeing different sides of Jack. It's more of the same.
Mhm.
So this was really cool to see these different sides of Sun and Claire, or to see if we've already seen these sides before, it's just a little different or it's more extreme. Sun, for example, it's really cool just to see her finally like kind of putting her foot down, which is interesting too, because the island knows she speaks English now. So I think she's able to assert that dominance more.
Yeah.
She's no longer hiding, and we're starting to see a different side of Sun, something that clearly was always part of her. She was just always hiding
Mhm.
because she didn't want her husband to find out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, both of them, Sun and Claire, all the way. Hell yeah. All right. Well, if this episode ever ends, we're going to next week talk about season 1, episode 21, The Greater Good. After the news of Boone's death rocks the camp, the survivors have one priority: find John Locke. Do 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 do. Bow, bow, bow. Do 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 do. Bow. Do
You
do
doing
do
the Law
do
and
do
Order
do
thing?
do 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 do. Yeah, because as Jack says, Boone wasn't killed, Kate. He was murdered. Do 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 do. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. So until next time. Oh, and something we keep forgetting to do, but please like, rate, I guess, comment, whatever. Oh, subscribe. That's the one.
Mhm.
That's why. That's why I forget to say. Subscribe to our podcast. Like it. Give us 5 stars or less if you want. But
And,
share it.
yeah,
Share it.
share it.
Everyone, everywhere.
Share it. Yeah, share it with everyone. Share it with anybody you love, any Lost fans that you know out there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that this fandom has any sort of like, it's not like Potterheads or anything like that. Like, but I hope there's some Lost heads out there.
What do they call them? Lost heads?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I
Huh.
don't know the name for it, but yeah, just
Oh, there's a
on it.
difference. There's a difference between Lost fans and Lost Legacies fans. What are we gonna call our peeps?
LL
Are those Lils?
Lils
Legheads?
Legheads. Yeah, leggies,
Leggies?
losties,
Lost.
lost legs.
Hmm.
We'll
We'll have to
figure
think
it
about
out.
this.
Yeah, yeah.
If you have suggestions, you should reach out to us.
Reach out to us. Send it to our socials. Put it in your reviews. Wherever you listen to this. Like, if you leave us a review, we will read it on air. And we love doing that. If you've gotten this far, I think you know that my brother and I, we like talking, and we can talk for a long time.
I think too much.
So yeah, sometimes a little too much. Yeah, but yeah, if you write us a review, good, great, and even the bad ones, we'll read them.
Cool. Yeah. So reach out to us. We're still kind of working on coming up with a social media stuff for Lost Legacies. But until then, you can find me on Twitter at _ Matt Jimenez and on Instagram at Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Reel, that's REEL, Texas Weirdo.
And if you have questions for us or questions about the show that you want us to address on air, send them to hashtag #AskSamAndMatt on Twitter, presumably. So, all right, cool. So until next time, what do we always say, Sam?
Get lost.
Doom, 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 doom. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom.
That's going to be... You're the one who's going to have to edit around the music that we have, the end credit music that's supposed to play out right now.
Oh, that's true. I'm just gonna slow fade out.